Today we're going to talk about the pay-per-click thermometer and why you guys should be falling in love with ice cubes and lava. And the reason why we want to talk about ice cubes and lava is because a lot of you guys who run CRO agencies sometimes have no control over the traffic that you're getting. And so your tests are going to be harder to run, they're going to be less valid, and it's because sometimes the PPC agency that's controlling the traffic is running it through a lot of different PPC networks, like search, social, video, and display, right? So it's going to ruin a lot of your results. Now, in the world of PPC and CRO, plateaus are very real. You don't know what to do to break through for them. You don't know how to get a lower cost per conversion, a lower cost per click, better quality scores. And on the CRO side, you might be running testing fatigue, where you don't know what to do to increase your landing page or website conversion rates, right? Now, the problem is we can do something about that. But the bigger problem is that your PPC agency that you're working with might not know how to differentiate the offers and the call to actions that the different PPC networks need in order to be successful. Meaning, people who come through on the search network have a stronger intent to convert than people who see a banner ad on the display network, or a video ad on YouTube, or a Facebook ad on the social side. So, the issue is that a lot of people try to use the same offer for all their different PPC networks. And when that happens, you're not going to get the same results. So if you guys are familiar with the American football player, most of you are probably not, Marshawn Lynch. I'm not a big fan myself, but he just retired. And he's very well known for having some of the best interviews in sports over in the US. So this is what happens when you actually go through and you try to use brute force for all your PPC networks. Let's take a look.
That's when it just clicked in my mind that if you just run through somebody's face, a lot of people ain't gonna be able to take that over and 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 over again. They just not gonna want that.
Think there's a deeper metaphor there?
Run through a motherfucker face. Then you don't have to worry about them no more.
So as you can see, that doesn't work when you're trying to get people in different parts of your funnel to come through and actually convert on the offers that you have. So today, I'm going to talk to you guys about unlocking new potential through the different types of networks that we have at our disposal, which is search, social, display, and video. The first thing we're going to talk about is understanding the different types of threat levels that your visitors have when they come through from your PPC ad. So have you guys ever launched, if you actually do PPC, have you ever launched a campaign that worked for the search network, for example, launched it somewhere else and it didn't work? Yes, in the back? No? Well, it's because you didn't match the actual intent of the visitor with the offer that you're having. Now, Stacy had a good little conversion cycle that she was using about how to move one person from the next step to the other. I have the more American version, the Chuck Norris cycle. And basically what happens is, as you can see, your display visitors might start on the awareness side, right? Video has more engagement. They come higher up on the awareness cycle. Interest is more on the social side, where they actually have the demographics that you can target. And then the search visitors could start on the consideration phase right before the actual action, your conversion, happens. So in the situation of ice cubes and lava, that basically means when you have a very, very cold visitor, meaning somebody who's coming through the display network, you have to match your call to action with what you're asking them to do. If you have somebody who's coming through in the search network, meaning it's warmer and a lot hotter traffic, you can get them in the situation of lead gen, for example, if you're trying to get somebody to convert on a free consultation, or in the SaaS world, a free demo or a free trial, you can ask them for that. But you can't expect the same results when you're launching it through different PPC channels. So on a linear scale, what that basically means is that, again, you have the cold from the display all the way to the hot on the search side. And from what our experience tells us is that these different types of call to actions work best in a cold manner where people have never seen you before in this situation. And I think if you guys want to take a picture of that, you can. But basically what happens is, as you see, if you want to eventually make money off of your PPC traffic, which all of us do, and you want to have a consultation, a quote, or an actual purchase, well, you can have that on the more hot side, on the search and the higher intent, but as you go further on the cold side, it's going to be harder to do, and you can't expect that. In a traditional funnel that you have, people go in different parts of that funnel, and as you see, the different display, video, social, and search all have to happen prior to the next step, and you can't expect somebody to start at display and go all the way to purchase immediately. So you have to nurture them through that. So What does this mean? Well, it means that you have to figure out the offer that matches the best PPC channel for you and be okay with the fact that you're not going to make money right away, because it's not going to happen. The brute force doesn't work. So when we talk about the different temperatures that you have coming through, one of the easiest things to understand is that when you have cold visitors, they don't know who you are and they don't know what you offer. These are usually the ones that have the highest bounce rate, the lowest time on site. On the warm side, they actually know what you have to offer, and they want that, but they're not sure that you're the business that they want to get it from. And on the hot side, they're searching for your brand name, and they want what you have to offer, right? Now, I want to give you an example. One of our clients is a company called Plateaus, and they are a female clothing subscription company out of San Francisco. And in the example right here, if you can see it, up here on the Google search side, we have the keyword women's clothing rental, which is not branded. It's warm traffic, right? And what we're trying to do is get them to click the ad, go through to this landing page, and actually create an account. Onboard themselves, select the styles, select their sizes, and then hopefully get them to actually pay and become an actual member. Now, we try to use this exact same offer for the display network, and it tanked. I think the average time on site on the landing page was about 5 seconds, so we couldn't expect anybody to onboard. And so we were trying to think for ourselves, what can we do to improve that? Let's try to give a 50% discount off the first month. Still didn't work, right? So in our minds, we're thinking, well, what can we do to lower the threat, to get their foot in our door, and so that we can potentially upsell them and nurture them to become account creators and then paying members afterwards. So instead, we created ads and a landing page for signing up for the newsletter, right? And still giving the 50% off. And then we paired that with a landing page that was about the benefits of signing up for the newsletter. And so what happened was, this started working. And as we were getting more and more people coming through, and as you know, probably the display network PPC clicks are a lot cheaper than the search. The intent to actually buy is not as high, but if you have the right nurturing process, you can get them to actually perform on a similar level. And as soon as we got them to actually sign up for the free newsletter, we upsold them or just transitioned them to say, now that you've done that, create your account and get started. And so the time from doing the newsletter to the actual account creation was immediate. There was no nurturing needed. So in your minds, when you're trying to think of, well, how can I get multiple PPC channels to work for my business or for my clients, be okay lowering the threat of what you're asking your visitors to do, and then be aggressive enough to actually upsell them right away to the original thing that you wanted to do, and it works that way. So it isn't just Plateaus. Uber does this a lot too. You can't really see this, but in the blue button, the call to action is Drive with Uber, which is very, very aggressive. And what they started doing was having some new tests where they asked, does your car qualify for Uber? So that's very interesting for you guys because you don't know if your Honda or Toyota actually does qualify, but if it does, you go through this little onboarding quiz that they have, and if the answer is yes, the next step that Uber can have is actually say, okay, you're ready. Do you want to drive with Uber? Do you want to become a registered driver and start making money? So the issue is not just on display and other networks within PPC, it's also in regards to one of the most common CRO quote-unquote hacks that a lot of people say, and that is when you're in the lead gen space or in the SaaS space and you have a form, you want to lower the amount of fields. The only problem with that is that not only does Neil or Ollie say it, Pep said it as well, and when it comes to PPC on the search network, the problem with visitors is that they have the option of going back, clicking the next ad, and seeing if there's a better experience. So if you think about it, what happens when you keep reducing your form fields? The thing that you're left with is the most threatening in the eyes of the visitor, which is name, email, and phone number, right? And so you can't do that. So if people see that they come through and they actually have name, email, and phone number being the only thing on your form, they get threatened, they go back, and they see if they can have a better experience. So in the world of lowering the threat for the search network, one of the best things that you can do that we found is that you can actually add more fields and you can add more steps to your forms and get higher performance from that. And what I mean by that is taking your most threatening information that you're asking a visitor and putting it as the last step. And the steps ahead of that will actually be things that are relevant to help qualify the lead better for your client or yourself, if that's the case. In this situation, we actually have a watch buyer who buys watches from the general public, and some of the questions on step one is, what's the brand of your watch? What's the model of your watch? Do you have any comments? And we went from a single step landing page with all these fields in one form, and then split it up into two, very simple, and saw those results up top. Same thing with the company that buys cars from the general public. Step one is asking for vehicle, year, make, and model, and then step two is asking for name, email, and phone number. And this is an interesting one. This is for an online university in the US. The only thing that they were asking was, what year did you graduate high school? First name, last name, email, and phone number. All we did was we actually put what year did you graduate high school as the first step, and it worked. So now, this works for all industries. Unfortunately, this doesn't work for e-commerce because you're not having any lead gen forms. But for the lead gen B2B, B2C, and even SaaS, it works tremendously well. Now, when you go in and you actually see that you have to have the different offers for the different PPC channels to make sure that you match the threat and the intent of the visitor with your call to action, you also have something very interesting happening on the search network. So if you think about it, all keywords that you're bidding on through AdWords or Bing Ads, they all have different conversion rates, right? But more importantly, the conversion isn't what's making you money. It's just getting you the lead. It's getting you to sign up. In this situation, it could be an online school where the initial conversion is an application to learn more and then eventually enroll and then pay, right? So those keywords have different conversion rates, but more importantly, they have different sales rates too. So in the world of the Chuck Norris PPC cycle, you have to understand that different keywords that you're bidding on might look the same inside of AdWords. They might have the same conversion rates, but when you look at the sales side, nothing actually compares and is the same at all. So you have the awareness, interest, and the consideration phase. And what happens is you get situations like this, where if I were to ask you guys, all things being equal, which keyword is performing better right now? Keyword 1, right? It has the highest conversion rate and the lowest cost per conversion. But if you actually have the sales data and seeing what keywords are closing, now which keywords perform better? And this happens all the time, but people aren't actually tracking what's making them money. And you can not only do this on the keyword level, you can do it on the placement level for the display network or the audience level inside of Twitter and Facebook as well. So think about it like this. A lot of the keywords you're bidding on are like salespeople. They're very, very good at talking, but not a lot of them actually close. And so it's up to you to figure out which keywords deserve the commissions so that you can put more money behind them and be okay increasing your cost per acquisition for those keywords that perform a lot better. And what this means basically is you can have the same amount of sales with a drastically lower ad spend. So how do you track that? Well, you have manual UTM parameters and also automatic value track parameters, and then you add these to your hidden fields inside of your forms. This is an example of using Unbounce, for example, and then you can pair that with your CRM data. So as you get sales over time, and it might be a while depending on the sales volume that you have, but as you go along, you'll start seeing a clear break in the keywords that you're bidding on and which ones are actually performing better on a sales perspective, which again is what matters most, is making more money. So this is actually echoing what Stacey mentioned too, is that once you get people into your different funnels, whether it's display, search, social, or video, you have to make sure you can do something that's very easy to bring them to the next step. Not leapfrogging over to actually become a purchase, but going from the awareness to the consideration phase and then eventually to the purchase phase, right? So what you want to do is you want to upgrade your prospects along the way and make sure that you can actually use tools like retargeting and email nurturing to go through. One of the most powerful ways is actually using custom Google Analytics retargeting, where you can create audiences and actually segment them in a more granular fashion that you can within AdWords itself. Once you do that and you have a decent amount of volume behind your audiences, you can create lookalike audiences and also similar audiences in AdWords. And basically what that means is you have the option of telling Facebook or Google and say, hey guys, I have this size of my audience. Are there other people out there who match my demographics of this audience? And do they have the same searching behavior as well? And if it's a fact, you can actually expand your audience and get similar results of what your original cookied audience was giving you. Now, once you actually get through this and you want to move prospects along to the next phase, it's very important that you understand that the higher your threat, the colder your traffic, the more nurturing is needed. A lot of us marketers get very horny. We want to go fast and we want to move to the next step. It doesn't work that way. You want to be able to give a lot of value, thought leadership, value. It's not a perfect equation. It doesn't always work like this, but just think about how long it can actually take before you can get them to move to the next step, which could be part of the big 5-step funnel process, right? The lower your threat, the warmer your traffic, the less nurturing is needed as well. Now, again, keep in mind too, is in your business or in your client's business, if you were to say, and you had to create 4 different offers for the search, social, display, and video world, what are those offers, and can you match the intent of your visitors by seeing which ones is actually going to be performing better, right? And it comes through testing, of course. Now, last point is that when you're actually getting things through and you have your offers ready, you might not get the conversions that you're expecting right away. And the reason for that is you might not have enough conversion data, and you want to focus on what we call micro conversions that lead up to your actual macro conversion. And so one of the most common micro conversions are things like time on site, showing a level of engagement, scroll depth, form fields being completed, and button clicks, right? And so in your situation, your micro conversion path is linear, meaning time on site has to happen before a certain scroll depth is obtained. That has to happen before form fields are being completed, before button clicks, and then you get your actual conversion. And so it's up to you to figure out, well, where are your visitors dropping off? And a very easy way to do this is use Google Analytics data, where you can see at the campaign, ad group, or keyword level, the time on site for certain keywords. Now, in this situation, we're looking at the campaign level, and as you see at the bottom, that has only 12 seconds per visitor on average staying on our website or landing page. Now, the issue is you might still have this happen, and you might still have decent amount of conversions and a high conversion rate coming through, but I almost guarantee that the value of those conversions are not as high as the people who are staying around longer. And you can ask your salespeople and the people that you're talking to on your client side if that's the case. The other thing you can use is use Hotjar, for example, to track the fields, see the average time on an individual field or the refill rate. And if you see that it has a high bottleneck, you want to actually move that field to maybe lower on the form, or like we talked about earlier, have the multi-step landing pages where you split up that traffic, or sorry, the fields, and seeing if you can add that more threatening field to later in the funnel. Because as soon as people actually fill out that first step of your landing pages form, they have a reason to finish what they started, and so they're actually much more likely to go through and actually finish it. And you also want to keep in mind that as you launch the different types of campaigns to the different networks, they're all going to have their own micro conversion path. That's it. Thank you.